What's up? This is Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff. On today's show, the Raiders were eliminated from the playoffs, now 2-10 on the season. Pete Carroll went from always winning 10 games a year to losing 10 games, and he's giving advice to Lane Kiffin. Golden Knights got a win, finally. Carl Lindbom got a win, finally. But now he's in the AHL because Carter Hart is here. And UNLV is going to play for the Mountain West title, thanks to computers. You should sponsor the show. If you're watching this, you saw the nice little graphic. If you're just listening, this is on YouTube as well. I'm going to be doing a video portion of the show every day as well. But you should sponsor it. It's going to be cheaper than you think. I got to make money somehow to actually be able to do this. Fortunately, I got a little bit of a runway here don't have to make money right away, but I got to make some money at some point. So if you want to sponsor it, I will love you. We'll make it fun. So your business definitely wants to sponsor this show. We'll make any amount work. I'm not greedy, at least not until I'm super popular and making bundles of money doing this. Also, you don't have a business and you're like, I got $20. We'll make it work. You can be the first sponsor in the history of the show for $20. We'll make it work. Email me, technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com. Technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com. We'll figure it out. Here we go. UNLV football beat Nevada on Saturday 42-17. And we'll get to the actual game itself. But with that win, UNLV ended the year 6-2 in Mountain West play along with 3 other teams. And UNLV won that tiebreaker and will play for a Mountain West title. They'll do it against Boise State again, and they'll have to go to Boise. But the fun part of this is that 4 teams finished at 6-2. UNLV, San Diego State, Boise State, and New Mexico. And UNLV did get a little bit lucky here because if the college football playoff doesn't exist, they're probably not in this year's Mountain West Championship game because the most normal tiebreaker would be some form of head-to-head. And UNLV went 0-2 against the other teams that they're tied with for the Mountain West Championship. Would make sense that they would be out, and the 2 teams that went 2-1 would be in. But the Mountain West, they're tiebreakers. They do use head-to-head, but only if all of the tied teams have played each other. If there's just one matchup that didn't happen, which was UNLV and San Diego State this year, they don't use head-to-head. And instead, they go to the first tiebreaker is who's the highest ranked team in the college football playoff rankings. There is no Mountain West team in the top 25, so that's irrelevant. The next tiebreaker is these 4 computer metrics. It's SP+, it's strength of record, it's KPI, and it's sports source. You average those together, and that gives you a ranking, and those are the teams they take, the top 2 teams from that. That happens to be UNLV and Boise State. The computer rankings don't exist if there's no college football playoff, or I should say the computer ranking tiebreaker doesn't exist if there's no college football playoff ranking. So UNLV is almost certainly in the playoff in the Mountain West Championship game because the playoff exists. Kind of lucky on that note. Quick side note, by the way, my biggest complaint about the computer rankings they're using is sports source. It's not publicly available. Like you can find SP+, you can find strength of record, you can find KPI. You can even read into what goes into SP+, what goes into KPI to get a sense of how it works. But Sports Source is just this mystery ranking from a company that I guess teams have to subscribe to get the ranking. It's just very weird to have this non-public ranking be a huge factor in what determines who's going to your championship game. Now, on the tiebreaker itself, I get why they go to the computer metrics. It is smart, but it's also anticlimactic. The reason it's smart is the Mountain West is trying to get a team in the college football playoff. That's it. That's the only reason. And so you go to these rankings, a couple of them that the committee is supposedly using to rank teams to try to figure out, all right, this is who's going to be our best team, who the committee would consider most likely to put in the playoff, right? That's why they use the computer metrics. It's to try to maximize any chance to get a Mountain West team into the college football playoff. I get it. That part of it makes sense. But here's what sucks. The final weekend of the season, we have teams playing in games, and they don't know if they're going to the title game after their game ends or even after all of the Mountain West games end. UNLV finished their game on Saturday night. That was it. They were the last of these 4 teams to play. And we didn't know who was going to the Mountain West Championship game. We didn't know until Sunday at 7:30 a.m. because the Mountain West waited overnight, I guess, to make sure these computer rankings would finalize. You do have to wait for all of the games to end for SP Plus and KPI and Strength of Record for all of those to be done. But they waited, and then at 7:30 a.m. Pacific on Sunday morning, we find out. That's not fun. Like, you play these games, and then you just have to wait around for KPI to be updated. Like, that's not fun. And so a better tiebreaker that would be way more fun, and granted, not as great if we're trying to put a team in the playoff, but would be way more fun, would be to use Mountain West point differential. I'm fine if there's a ranked team, send them. That's fine. But when there's no ranked team, we don't need to be looking up KPI. We don't need to be finding out that Sports Source is not public. Give me Mountain West point differential, because here's exactly what would have happened on Saturday. The other teams would have been done. UNLV is the only team left playing. San Diego State would have known they were in the Mountain West Championship game because their Mountain West point differential was plus 89. New Mexico would have known they were out because their point differential was only plus 29. And then you'd have Boise State sitting there at plus 70, waiting for UNLV's game, because UNLV going into the game against Nevada was plus 50 in point differential. So if you're following along, if we did point differential in conference games as the tiebreaker, that means UNLV would have had to have beaten Nevada by 21 points on Saturday to make it to the Mountain West Championship game. That's what they would have. Win by 21, you go. Win by less than 21, Boise State goes. And so what we got in that game, Nevada got the ball back with about 2.5 minutes to go, down 25, meaning they would have been driving to score a touchdown and knock UNLV out of the Mountain West Championship and put Boise State in. That's what that drive would have meant. Instead, we didn't really know what that drive meant. It didn't really mean anything, but it could have been the drive to put Boise State into a conference championship game and, more importantly for Nevada, knock UNLV out. We could have had the amazing scenario, which I think would be the most fun, where UNLV's got to win by 21, they're up by 14 with a minute to go, and they're racing to score a touchdown to win the game by 21. Imagine if they're up 13 and they go score a touchdown, and then they've got to go for 2 in the final seconds because they have to win by 21. It would have created incredible drama, and it would have made the UNLV game against Nevada more fun to watch with the backdrop of point differential, which can be calculated in real time. So that's my plea for what the Mountain West should have instead of the computer rankings, because the computer rankings are not fun. It takes away from the fun of the actual games. So that's what I would have loved to have seen. Would have been a lot better watching that game, more fun watching that game. And then we would have known, UNLV would have been able to celebrate at the end of the game, not just for beating Nevada, not just for getting the cannon, but for going to the Mountain West Championship game. Instead, I mean, how many players were awake at 7:30 a.m. on Sunday? Did they even know it was coming out at 7:30 a.m.? I don't know. Instead, they wake up and they find out, oh, cool, we're going to the Mountain West Championship game. So UNLV did end up making it. Good for them. They are the computer's favorites, so that works out for them. But I do think Dan Mullen messed up, because end of both halves of the game against Nevada, he didn't try to run the score up. We had end of the first half, 52 seconds left. They've got 3 timeouts. They get the ball at the 31-yard line. And UNLV hands the ball off and then lets the clock run. They then get a false start, call a timeout to avoid the 10-second runoff, and then Calandria throws an interception deep down the field. Very confusing, whatever they did there, but they were not committed to trying to score on that drive. And in a game where you need to win, but also need to improve your metrics to make sure you're the highest in the tiebreaker, missed opportunity. And then it got even worse. Fourth quarter, They get the ball with 4.5 minutes to go. They did throw it on first down, but then they ran it 4 straight times, and it set up a 4th and 3 at the 46-yard line, right at midfield. They ran the clock down to the 2-minute warning and punted. Then they got the ball again, 47 seconds left at Nevada's 48. You're right at midfield, and they knelt the clock out. That's 3 different times they could have gone for more points, and Dan Mullen turned it down. It's genuinely bad coaching. They ended up winning the tiebreaker. They ended up ahead of San Diego State and New Mexico, and actually Boise State. But if they had ended up missing the Mountain West Championship game, and let's say they had finished like 1 spot below San Diego State, we would have looked back and been like, Dan Mullen could have tried to score 1 more touchdown, and that might have been enough to leapfrog San Diego State in the computer rankings, and then they're in the Mountain West Championship game. Unless he knew during the game, which I highly doubt he did, because I don't think there's any way to, in real time, calculate SP plus and KPI and all this stuff. You've got other games matter. So unless he somehow knew, unless they've got the greatest analytical staff that's able to do that in real time, it was just bad coaching. Like, he should have been trying to run the score up there. As safe as UNLV felt they were with these rankings, he should have been trying to run the score up. Perfect time for me to come back and do a show, by the way. There's literally nothing better for me and what I do than computer rankings, tiebreakers, and UNLV football. Like, absolutely perfect. So, perfect time for a first show. Now, this rivalry, if we get away from the computers and the Mountain West Championship game for a minute, this rivalry has completely flipped. I mean, Nevada still leads the series overall, but the recent history, this is turning into, UNLV dominance. It's 4 straight wins in the series, and those 4 wins, the average margin of victory is 18 points. They're beating the hell out of Nevada when they play them. I wish the games were closer. Closer games are more fun, but they're beating the hell out of them. UNLV has also won 6 out of 8 in this series, and they've won 8 out of 13. This is UNLV's rivalry now. And if you look beyond just the head-to-head games, Nevada's win totals over the last 4 seasons, it's 2, 2, 3, 3. That's what UNLV used to do. Like, you just win a couple of games a year, you beat your FCS opponent, you upset one team in Mountain West play, and that was UNLV football. That's what Nevada's been for 4 years. Meanwhile, UNLV's last 4 years, you had a 5-7 year in there with Marcus Arroyo, but then 9-5, 11-3, and 10-2. Last 4 years, Nevada's won 10 games, UNLV has won 35. That's insane. It's absolutely ridiculous. The UNLV has gotten that good while Nevada has completely fallen off the face of the earth. And maybe this is me doing worst case scenario, but I kind of have the genuine question. Is Nevada dying off as a competitive football program? And like, obviously other Mountain West programs are performing well. UNLV is. But with NIL money and revenue sharing coming with players, how much of a path does Nevada have to being good? And listen, this might happen to all Mountain West teams. It might happen to all Group of 5 teams. It's certainly possible here. Maybe there's this big split and the power conferences shoot off and they're just playing a different sport. They kind of already are. So maybe it happens to everybody who doesn't get into a power conference. But how does Nevada get back to being good? Like, how do they get back to just Mountain West good? Obviously, they got to hire a good coach. That's the biggest thing in college football. But like, can they attract one? They lost their last decent coach. They lost to Colorado State, a team in the Mountain West. Jay Norvell looked at Nevada and said, you know what's better? Colorado State. Well, I'm not even sure that's that good of a program. So how does Nevada attract a good coach? I don't really know. They might have to kind of get lucky. They just have to make a good hire and then after 3 or 4 years, hope to do another one. That's kind of the situation a lot of Group of 5 schools are going to be in. But how does Nevada attract a good coach? Maybe I'm going off the deep end too quickly, but it just seems like they're one of these programs that's really going to struggle with the way college football is run now. And I'd say this for UNLV fans. Not that you want Nevada to win. That's not what we're saying here. But you don't want them to die off. Like, you don't want them to be gone. Like, you want them to exist. And you want them to exist as like a somewhat competent program. Like, yeah, you always want to beat them. You always want them to be a little bit worse than you. But like, you don't want them to be gone as a program, and you don't want it to be where they just have no chance at winning more than 2 or 3 games. It's not as much fun. Like, you want your rival to be something, to have the games matter for more than just, oh, they could spoil your season. You'd like to ruin something for them as well. So again, I'm not telling you to cheer for them, but it does kind of suck if somebody like Nevada falls apart and then, okay, you're playing for a cannon, but they're not even a program anymore. Now, the game itself, obviously, UNLV's offense was good. It's basically good in every game. But specifically in this one, their yards per play was 9.0. Second best game they've had this year. The Air Force game was the best one of the season. But just for context, the best offense in the country this year's yards per play was 7.4. So 9 is pretty ridiculous. Calandria did throw the 2 picks, but he hit a bunch of deep passes. They had a bunch of explosive plays, and UNLV just ran all over them. I thought it was most interesting they ran all over them just out of Wildcat in this game, because the funniest play of the game, UNLV motions Calandria out, so they're in the Wildcat with Jaden Thomas. They've got 5 offensive linemen, 1 tight end, so there's 6 guys to block on the line of scrimmage. They're snapping it to their running back, like one of the most productive running backs in the conference. What do you think they're going to do? Nevada only had 4 defenders in the box. They had 3 down linemen and 1 linebacker in the blocks. Again, 6 guys to block for the running back taking the snap. There's 4 defenders there. Genuinely one of the worst defensive alignments you will ever see in football. And Nevada thought it would work there against Jaden Thomas taking a snap directly from the center. So good coaching there by Nevada. Couple other things from this game. First off, it didn't matter because they blew them out and they won the tiebreaker. But does Carter Jones, who's the quarterback at Nevada, does he have the best hard count in the history of football? UNLV jumped off sides 8 times. 8! Dan Mullen, they're up by 4 touchdowns. Dan Mullen is losing his mind while his team is up by 4 touchdowns because they kept jumping off sides. Have you seen a team jump 8 times? I mean, that's an insane amount. I don't think Carter Jones is very good at football. I know he's young and whatever, 3 years from now, maybe I'm eating that because he's developed into something good. But he's really good at hard counts, apparently. Whatever he was doing, it worked because they kept jumping off sides. And I do have 2 complaints. First off, UNLV didn't wear red in this game. I am a firm believer. This rivalry game should be red jerseys against blue jerseys. Every time. Nevada did wear blue. UNLV was in gray. They've done it plenty of times in the past. Wear red. Give me red versus blue. There are lots of rivalries like this where we should get the colors of the 2 universities. The jerseys should be against each other. We don't need to wear white. When you're red and blue, we don't need to wear white. We don't need to wear gray, silver, whatever color you think your secondary color is. We don't need that. Wear red, wear blue, play some football. And then classic CBS Sports Network. We missed the start of the game on television. Almost 3 full minutes because CBS Sports Network was still showing us LSU and DePaul in the Emerald Coast Classic. LSU won that game 96-63. Thank God they kept it on that one. And what's worse about it for CBS Sports Network? If the game's on ESPN or ESPN2 and the one game runs into another, the game that's coming up, they'll start it on, it'll be on ESPN News, like a real television channel that you can turn to. CBS Sports Network just puts it online. And the worst part is it's not even like easy to find on CBS Sports' website. You have to like type in the actual URL to get there. It's brutal. And it's been this way for CBS Sports Network forever. It happens in basketball. It happens in football. It's just an absolute nightmare every time. I hate it. I know it's not going to change anything, but it's just like we're watching a 30-point basketball game when UNLV is playing for a chance to go to a Mountain West championship. Like it's just stupid. Give us the football game, or more importantly, figure out your television windows. Put a little more space between the games so not everything has to run into something else. But now it's time for Bischoff's Briefs. You know you want to sponsor Bischoff's Briefs. Great segment name, phenomenal segment name, and you want to sponsor it. You can sponsor the whole show. You can sponsor just Bischoff's Briefs. Again, I'll say it again. Whatever you got, I'm not going to be greedy. I'll do it. I'll love you. We'll make it work. You let me know. TechnicallyCorrectVegas@gmail.com. Email me there. We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. It's going to be great. I'm telling you, you want to be the first sponsor in the history of the show, and then you want to be the second and third and the fourth. It's going to be great. I got to make some money to do this, so please sponsor me. Technically Correct Vegas at gmail.com. That's where you need to go. Now, into Bischoff's briefs. Justin Herbert fractured his hand in the Chargers' win over the Raiders yesterday, which means we saw Trey Lance come in for a few plays. Herbert did come back in. I don't think they went under center any of the times after Herbert fractured his hand. He seemed to be struggling with that. Almost dropped a snap, too, in the shotgun, but it wasn't enough for the Raiders to actually do anything. He's apparently going to have surgery on it, and they haven't ruled him out for their game against the Eagles this next week. Don't know if he's going to miss time. Do you have surgery on your hand and then play football the next week? I don't really know. It's his non-throwing hand, so yeah, he played through it. So I guess after surgery, maybe he could. Chargers have had a brutal season of offensive injuries. They're 8-4, so they're probably in the playoffs, especially if Herbert actually doesn't miss time. But that just seems like a team that's barely holding on, literally health-wise, and yet could actually be in the playoffs. Carl Lindbom won his first game as a Golden Knight on Saturday. The injury to Aiden Hill meant we have gotten much more Carl Lindbom than anyone expected. And I guess maybe we should have expected it. Hill's always been injured in his career. Last year's like the first time he wasn't hurt. So maybe we should have expected. Not all that shocking. But Lindbom made 7 starts. His save percentage was .870. Not good. His goal saved above average in those 7 starts was negative 4.6. That's more than half a goal a game he's giving up in an average goalie. Not good. But he got his first win. And one thing that I enjoyed seeing, even though I'm a hater, I do genuinely like to see when the stars of a team or the veterans of a team are like genuinely happy and celebrating the accomplishments of rookies or guys sort of at the back of the roster. And Carl Lindbom gets his first win. And the end of that game, Sharks have him under siege. Like, he's got to make saves there in the final seconds to actually seal up this one goal win for Vegas. And game ends, Mark Stone and Zach Whitecloud immediately are in the crease celebrating with Lindbom. And Mark Stone celebrates everything. He's great about that. But it's just, I like seeing that. It's fun to see guys that have won Stanley Cups, that have a ton of accomplishments, that are excited about something kind of small, like a random win in November. But hey, it was Carl Lindbom's first career win. It's fun to see that. I do like to see that. Now, it might be Carl Lindbom's only win in the NHL because he got sent back to the AHL. And Carter Hart is now going to be up with the team. Today, December 1st, is the first day that Carter Hart is eligible to play for the Golden Knights. They don't have a game. They play on December 2nd, so he can't play, but he is with the team. Kevin Weeks reported that Carter Hart is going to start Tuesday's game against Chicago. The goaltending has been bad enough to justify Carter Hart from a hockey standpoint to play immediately and probably play a lot until Aiden Hill is back, and maybe even beyond that. We'll see when Aiden Hill comes back, and obviously we'll see how good Carter Hart actually is. But I am fascinated by Bruce Cassidy's goalie decisions that he's going to make here, and what does Carter Hart look like? We're going to talk more about the Golden Knights later in the week. I'm also fascinated by the decision to bench Saad and Smith, and then the Golden Knights winning after the message was sent with benching some veterans there. But we're going to get more into that later this week, so stay tuned. There's going to be 5 episodes a week. That's the plan here. So stay tuned. We'll get more into the Golden Knights, some benching some guys, and obviously Carter Hart, because it's more than just the play on the ice that matters with Carter Hart. In the NFL, the Chicago Bears are 9-3 and in first place not only in the NFC North, but in the NFC. Their coach is Ben Johnson. And if we go back in time, try to remember here, the guy Tom Brady wanted to be the head coach in Vegas was Ben Johnson. That's also the guy who didn't really give the Raiders a legitimate chance when the Lions season ended last year. He almost immediately took the Chicago job. And how much better would the Raiders be if they had Ben Johnson? Well, they wouldn't have Caleb Williams, and they might still have Geno Smith. Probably not, because that was a Pete Carroll thing. Who knows who the quarterback would actually be? But I think the real question here is, can the Raiders land a head coach? Are they an attractive job? Like Mark Davis, if we go back a few years, Mark Davis, he did get John Gruden and lured him out of retirement. But how did he do that? he had to have a 10-year contract with $100 million attached to it. So Mark Davis can buy the attractiveness with money for this job. But if we look at the last 2 head coaching hires, it kind of says no, maybe they can't get a good candidate because they hired Antonio Pierce and they hired Pete Carroll. And obviously neither one has worked out. But would anyone else have hired those coaches, right? Were they contending or competing with anybody else to hire those coaches? Not really. And so the issue is some of this is short term, some of this is long term, and some of this should be short term, but is somehow long term. But there's no quarterback here in place. Like if you directly compare Chicago and Vegas, Raiders didn't have Geno Smith. It was, do you want Caleb Williams or do you want whatever the question mark is for the Raiders? Clearly, Caleb Williams was a better option, right? He's a young quarterback, and it's going to be, or could be, really good under Ben Johnson. Where with the Raiders, you don't know what you're getting from quarterback. Now, that's short term. In theory, in the future, that changes, hopefully changes. Otherwise, they're going to be doomed forever if they never get a quarterback. But the bigger problem beyond that is like, where's the clear leadership? Is Tom Brady in charge? Is John Spytek in charge? If you're the coach, are you in charge? So is Pete Carroll in charge? Like, that's been a problem for this organization ever since they came to Vegas. That's been an issue with every coaching staff and front office and ownership, whatever. That's been the problem. So if you're head coach coming in, who's in charge? Mark Davis is in charge, and he gives quotes about, I just want football guys to tell me what to do. Like, there's just bad leadership here. And so that makes it unattractive. That's why they have all the losing for decades now. And so how attractive is this job? There are other jobs. There are other organizations that are bad and unattractive. So it's not like the Raiders are the worst or they're the only team doing this. You can think about somebody like the Jets as a pretty good example. But if they're in some sort of hiring cycle and there's 4, 5, 6 jobs open, what are the chances the Raiders are the best job? Not very high. And I think that's going to be an issue that we're going to see whenever the Pete Carroll era is over, whether that's very soon or a year or 2 from now. I think we're going to see that again, where it's just not that attractive of a job. And if you land the quarterback, that changes things. But otherwise, it starts at the top. Also in the NFL, good news for the Raiders. The Jets beat the Falcons. They got a last-second 56-yard field goal from Nick Folk, which means the Jets now have 3 wins this year, which is a huge win for the Raiders draft pick. And I will be honest here. I love tanking. Tanking brings usefulness. Tanking brings something to care about for bad teams. It's not what you want to be caring about, but it does bring you something to care about. And part of tanking is cheering for other bad teams to win. And that's the fun here. The Raiders get to cheer for the Jets to win. They did win. They have 2 more winnable games. They play Miami and they play New Orleans. Granted, you're probably going to want New Orleans to win that game, not New York. But that's part of the fun of tanking, is you get to cheer when other teams start to ruin their draft picks by winning games. Also for the Raiders, Brock Bowers had one of the best catches of the season on Sunday. Geno Smith was under pressure and just kind of threw it at Bowers. Just get it over there. It was way too low. And Bowers managed to reach back with one arm and like basically scrape the ball off the field to make this catch. Incredible snack for a touchdown. One of the better catches of the entire year. There were actually 3 incredible catches on Sunday. Treylon Burks had one, Puka Nacua had one, and Brock Bowers had one. But Bowers only had 4 targets in this game. He turned that into 63 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, maybe throw to him more. We'll get to more Raiders a little bit later in the show. Get a little bit more right here. Pete Carroll, he's in the news, not for being the coach of the Raiders. He told Lane Kiffin to take the LSU job. Lane Kiffin did an interview with Marty Smith of ESPN outside the Tupelo, Mississippi airport yesterday. And Lane Kiffin said that he talked to Pete Carroll about making this decision, and Pete Carroll told him, your dad would tell you to go, take your shot. Maybe it's why the Raiders are bad. Pete Carroll's advising Lane Kiffin during a game week instead of getting ready for the game. I would like to know, if this is the first time listening to me, I graduated from Ole Miss a little more than a decade ago. Lane Kiffin has been my favorite coach. Now he's probably going to be my most hated, but he's been my favorite coach. The thing that's annoying here is the desire of Lane Kiffin to take the LSU job, but stick around and coach Ole Miss throughout the playoffs. Ole Miss and LSU, that's a legitimate rivalry. It's both teams' like second biggest rivalry. Hopefully, Ole Miss is competing with LSU for playoff spots every year. And Kiffin wanted to take that job while staying around at Ole Miss for the playoffs, which is an absurd thing to want. If you really wanted to do that, you just sign an extension and stay at Ole Miss. If you want to coach Ole Miss in the playoffs, be Ole Miss's head coach, not LSU's. And then he tries to sabotage Ole Miss's playoff season by taking assistant coaches and trying to take players now. It's just shut up and go. Also, if you didn't see this is part of what makes college football great. And unlike anything else in the country, Ole Miss fans, and I believe students, drove to the Tupelo, Mississippi airport to stand outside of the fence where they could see the private jets that LSU had sent to pick up Lane Kiffin and flip off everybody that was getting onto those planes. Because there were a couple assistant coaches that went with Lane Kiffin on that plane. Tupelo is about an hour away from Ole Miss. So, and there are people in Tupelo that are fans of Ole Miss, but I like to imagine that people drove an hour to go stand outside a fence and flip off Lane Kiffin. That's what makes college football great. You're not getting that in other places. That's not happening in other places. Like soccer in Europe, yeah, South American soccer, yes, very similar. But our other sports here, not as good. So that's why it's great. Now, one of the things that sucks about it, because it happened to Ole Miss, but we saw the group of five get pillaged over the weekend. Tulane, South Florida, and Memphis all lost their head coaches. Tulane's John Summerall is going to Florida. He's getting a 6-year deal worth $7.5 million per season. Tulane's got a legitimate, probably the best shot at going to the college football playoff among group of five teams. So he's taking the Florida job, but he's going to stay at Tulane. He's going to coach in the American title game, and then he's going to coach them in the playoff if they do make it. The interesting part is, I'm assuming, he's going to be recruiting for Florida as well, both high school and transfer portal. Now, the portal doesn't officially open until January 2nd. But coaches are already recruiting players. There's a story ESPN had, and they had this quote from somebody in the Big 12 who said, it's going to be like a legal tampering period in the NFL on steroids. It's going to be a full recruiting period. There are going to be kids who are damn near committed. Talking about before January 2nd. So that means the month of December is tampering with the transfer portal. How well can John Summerall do both if he's coaching into the playoffs where Tulane's going to be playing a game in mid-December? And if they actually upset somebody, they're going to be playing again. They're going to be playing right up until that transfer portal date if they were to upset somebody. How well can he do that? USF's coach Alex Golish is going to Auburn. He got a very similar deal, 6 years, $7.4 million. USF not in a playoff race at all, so just skip a bowl game and you're fine. Same for Memphis, who lost their head coach, Ryan Silverfield. They're not in a playoff race at all, so not an issue. He's going to Arkansas. Probably the worst hire of these three. He spent 6 full years at Memphis, never won the conference. And that's despite Memphis probably having the best overall resources in the American. So always had like good teams. It's not like he had just disaster teams, but never really accomplished anything at Memphis despite having really good resources. So it's pretty brutal to be a group of five team that has success. You know, UNLV lost Barry Odom after 2 years to Purdue. We're seeing the entire American lose their team or coaches to SEC teams. You got to question Dan Mullen, right? You win 10 games at a G5, be ready to lose your coach. Kentucky just fired their coach, Dan Mullen to Kentucky. Like, it's going to happen, and it sucks quite a bit because any amount of success you have at the group of five, if there's an open power conference job, they're coming for it. And there's no real reason to turn it down. If you're in a group of five and a power conference team offers you a job, they're probably doubling your pay, and you're in real college football. You're in a conference that can actually play for more than just, hey, we need to win our conference on a computer tiebreaker and then beat Boise State and then hope that the committee puts us in over Duke to get into the college football playoff. By the way, Purdue lost to Indiana 56-3 in their final game of the regular season, which means Barry Odom's first year at Purdue finished at 10-2. They beat Ball State and Southern Illinois to start their season 2-0, and then they lost 10 straight They went 0-9 in Big Ten play and lost to Notre Dame as well. Such a shame. He is getting $6 million per year. And I wonder, how much of a shot does Purdue have in college football now? Like, is bowl eligibility sort of their ceiling as a program? Because their last 10-win season was 1979. It's a long time ago. Do they have a legitimate chance to compete with NIL and revenue sharing? Like, can they compete in the Big Ten, or are they just kind of like a bottom fourth of the conference type of team who, if things go well, go 7-5? Is that what they are as a program? The crappy part is UNLV lost their coach to that. Like, that might be the reality of Purdue, and UNLV can't even contend with that. So it kind of sucks. But Purdue going 2-10 is funny. Also, I did want to make sure I get to this. It's not really related to Las Vegas sports. Maybe we need more of this in Nevada sports entirely. Michigan lost to Ohio State at home. And after the game, Ohio State players are celebrating with their fans. Michigan players stayed on the field and stood around the midfield logo, the M at the middle of the field, because they did not want Ohio State players to come and plant a flag at midfield. What a bunch of losers. You could win the game to stop that, but incredible rivalry moment. They are no shame whatsoever. They got crushed. They had a loss to their biggest rival that ended their playoff hopes, and they stayed on the field, watched Ohio State celebrate so they could defend their M. Defend some grass from a flag. It's incredible. And during the game, there was some snow, so we got some white stuff on the field. Ohio State's mascot, Brutus, went out on the field during a timeout and spelled out Ohio, their script Ohio, in the snow, and then went and put a big X over the M in the end zone where it said Michigan. Some guy from Michigan ran out and tried to uncover it so you couldn't read what it was saying. Phenomenal work. College football rivalries, it's the absolute best. Which is, by the way, you don't want Nevada to die because you want that. You want that to happen in your rivalries where your mascot gets to embarrass some guy because he's got to go crawl around on his hands and knees in the snow to cover up your OHIO spelling in the snow. It's phenomenal. I love college football. I'm so glad UNLV is good at this because relevant games in college football are the absolute best. That was Bischoff's Briefs. Bischoff's Briefs. Can I say my own name? Sponsor it. I know you want to. By the way, shout out to Vegas Rebel Drew on Twitter. He's the one that named this segment years ago. Now I need to give this segment a sponsor so I can make some money off of it. It's a great name. Thank you, Drew. Now somebody sponsor it. Give me some money so I can live. It's technically correct Vegas@gmail.com. Again, I'm telling you, cheaper than you think. It's not going to cost you a lot of money. So please sponsor it. So this is the first episode of Technically Correct. This is generally what we're going to do. I'm going to have an opening segment to talk about whatever is the biggest thing in Las Vegas sports. And then we're going to do Bischoff Briefs, where we go through more bullet point style of different things in Vegas sports. Maybe some things outside of Vegas sports that I like or tangentially related to Las Vegas sports. But that's going to be the start of the show. And then we'll get to some other stuff. Weekends in the fall have a lot. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, we're not going to talk enough Golden Knights today. We're going to do more Golden Knights tomorrow. We should be doing a lot more Golden Knights. But it's November into December, and we got football to talk about. You know, he's playing for a Mountain West championship. So that's the general idea. Those are the first two segments, and then we'll get into either more games or some more fun stuff later on in the show. Because it's a Monday after a football weekend, we got the Raiders, who lost to the Chargers 31-14 and are now officially eliminated from the playoffs at 2-10. Biggest change coming into this game was offensive play calling. The Raiders fired Chip Kelly after last week's game because the offense was horrible. Now Greg Olsen is calling plays. You're not going to believe it. The offense was horrible again. They scored 14 points. They ran for a whopping 31 yards in this game. Geno Smith threw for a total of 165. If you're doing the math there, that's less than 200 yards of total offense. He got sacked another 4 times, threw another interception. It's the same as usual. Running game's bad again. Offensive line is not helping any play caller. Like, it doesn't matter who's calling plays. The offensive line is so bad that you can't run the ball. Geno Smith's going to be under pressure. Like, it's so bad, you can't do anything about it. Interesting, though, there was no deep passing game in this game. Geno's not throwing down the field, and I know there's lack of weapons. There's a lack of trust in Geno, and the offensive line is bad. Like, I get all of that, but still, there really wasn't any shots down the field for the Raiders in this game. Chip Kelly was a bad Raiders offensive coordinator. He absolutely got scapegoated for what is a horrendous roster, what is a horrendous offseason, built by Spytek, built by Carroll, built by Brady. Like, they didn't fix the offensive line, so there's not much you can do there. They drafted a running back in the top 10. Useless pick. Like, you don't need to pick running backs in the top 10. The whole league knows this. I shouldn't say the whole league because other teams are going to do it too, but most of the league knows this. You draft a running back in the top 10 when you've got holes everywhere else, and we find out, oh, look, it doesn't actually help. Chip Kelly got scapegoated. Like, that's what happened here. He wasn't good, but he wasn't the problem either. And I highly doubt we see much that helps or much that changes or much that's positive the rest of the way. Now, we did see somewhat of a change. Not that big of a change, but somewhat of a change. The Raiders threw the ball to Ashton Jeanty. He ended this game with the most targets, the most catches of any player for the Raiders. He tied his season high and career high with 8 targets. He caught 6 of them. Raiders drafted him in the first round. Offensive line really prevents them from having any sort of run game. So how do you make use of Jeanty? Well, let's throw him the ball. Despite those 8 targets and 6 catches, Jeanty had 30 yards because all of his catches were screen passes or checkdowns. First play of the game, they tried to throw a screen pass. First pass of the game, they tried to throw a screen pass, and it was broken up by a lineman. There was no effort to get Jeanty creatively involved in the passing game. There was no, hey, let's run an actual route. Let's get down the field. It just felt like, hey, throw him the ball near the line of scrimmage and hope he does something special. And he didn't do anything special with those catches. Maybe he will. We haven't seen it, by the way. He's got 43 catches now in the year. None have gone for 30 yards or more. He's under 6 yards a catch. Like, throwing to him has not produced anything this season. Maybe we'll see it, but it just felt like that was the plan. Oh, we just got to get the ball in Jeanty's hands. So let's just throw it to him near the line of scrimmage and hope that he breaks 6 tackles and scores a touchdown. And it didn't work. And by the way, are we allowed to criticize Ashton Jeanty? Like, the offensive line is bad. And I want to make sure it's very clear here. The offensive line is the biggest problem. There's no doubt about it. It's the biggest problem. Jeanty, if we listed all the Raiders' problems, Jeanty's so far down the list, maybe I shouldn't criticize him. But I do feel like he's gone through this entire rookie year. And there's not been much talk about Ashton Jeanty not performing. Like, PFF grade before the game against the Chargers, he was the 32nd best running back in the NFL. PFF grades are there to filter out sort of your teammates' play. They watch every snap for every player and give that player a grade for what they do. So if Jeanty gets eaten up by the bad offensive line, allowing the defensive line to come through, he's not getting hurt by that by PFF grades. But he's still only the 32nd best running back in the NFL. His pass blocking has been bad all season, and the receiving work, again, I think some of it is play calling wise, but it's all for small yardage. There's nothing really happening there to help out the receiving game. And then yesterday, I mean, the worst play we saw for Jeanty, Raiders go for it on 4th and 1 at the end of the third quarter near midfield. And he got stopped, unsurprisingly. But the surprising part was he got stopped by an arm tackle. This wasn't a play where the offensive line gets blown up and Jeanty's hit by 2 guys 3 yards in the backfield. A guy just stuck an arm out around Ashton Jeanty's thigh and Jeanty went down. That's supposed to be the tackle he runs through. That's supposed to be what he does. But he got taken down by an arm tackle. A guy in the process of getting blocked reaches out an arm, and Jeanty goes down. That's not good enough from Ashton. That's got to be a first down from Jeanty. I know he's got a bunch of forced missed tackles. The offensive line is bad. That's a legitimate excuse. But Jeanty hasn't done much this year. Like, there have been some runs where he runs guys over, but again, he's not the biggest problem, but he hasn't been that good. And what we've seen from him this year is not enough to justify the 6th overall pick in the draft. It's not enough to justify the 60th overall pick in the draft because he hasn't really done much. How many Ashton Jeanty moments have there been this year? You can probably count them on one hand because it just hasn't been that notable. Again, not the biggest problem, but we should be able to criticize Ashton Jeanty despite the rest of the team being worse than him. Also interesting from this game, Pete Carroll finally giving in to developing players. He's been defiant all year about, I don't develop players, I win games. I guess 2-9 is the breaking point. But the Raiders actually had both of their third-round picks that were offensive linemen active in this game. Caleb Rogers started at right guard. They made James Meredith inactive. They actually made a veteran inactive on the offensive line. But Rogers started the game at right guard. There was at least one drive where they took him out and Antonio Mafia was in at right guard instead. But we saw Caleb Rogers play quite a bit. Wasn't any good, but at least we're seeing the Raiders play some of their rookies. This one's stretching, but Jack Besh had 3 targets. It's the second time this season he's had at least 3 targets in a game, so that's better. But they took a wide receiver in the second round, and they don't ever play him or throw to him. And it's a team without good wide receivers, so that's not great. But Jack Besh got the ball thrown to him 3 times. 2-9 appears to have been the breaking point, and has sort of forced Carroll to think about developing. It's what they need to do as an organization. Like, looking at the future is what they need to do. Being eliminated from the playoffs, maybe that's the actual breaking point where it's like, oh, wow, if we went out, it doesn't matter anymore. But like, they need to be thinking about the future, which is playing young guys, especially rookies, see if they're any good, or at the very least get them experience if you're going to need them to play next year. But they need to be thinking about the future. And by the way, future, I mean like 2027 and beyond, like not 2026, because this is almost certainly more than one off season away from getting fixed, which, by the way, they lose this game to the Chargers. And I had this thought watching it. How far away are the Raiders from the Chargers? The Chargers have a better head coach. The Chargers have a better quarterback. Those two are sort of the big marquee spots that you need to be good at, and they're better. They also have a better defense. They're better at running the ball, even though their top 2 running backs got hurt this season. They're better at running the ball and protecting the quarterback, even though they've lost their top 2 offensive tackles this season. Like, where are the Raiders better than the Chargers? Brock Bowers is better than Oronde Gadsden, although don't look up their production this year. It's actually very, very similar. But Bowers is better than Gadsden this period, not just this year, period. Outside of that, like, Crosby's good, but Crosby's not having this elite season where you'd be like, oh yeah, he's clearly one of the best defensive linemen in the league, and he would improve. Like, the Chargers have a pretty good defensive line. So where are they better? And if you look at this, like, from a divisional opponent, Herbert's not going anywhere. What are the chances the Raiders land a quarterback that's as good as Justin Herbert in the next 5 years? Pretty low. Like, they're going to have to draft one most likely and then have that work out, which obviously we know not all of them do. Also, what are the chances the Raiders get a head coach as good as Jim Harbaugh in the next 5 years? Pretty low. Like, how many good head coaches want to come to this job? You have to get the quarterback to track the head coach, or maybe you need the head coach to develop the quarterback. Like, which one do you need there? I don't know that the Raiders improve on either of those to the level the Chargers are in the next 5 years. So how far are the Raiders? Like, how many years are we talking about that they would take them to catch the Chargers? And this is the damning part. The Chargers aren't leading the AFC West. That's Denver. And the Chargers aren't the team in the division with the best quarterback and head coach. That's Kansas City. Like, even if the Raiders caught the Chargers, they're still not winning the division, and they're still not the team with the best Super Bowl odds. They're in 3rd place is what it means if you catch the Chargers. And I think the game we watched showed you how far away they are from the Chargers, which means that's how far away they are from contending for anything, and why they need to be focused on the future, why they need to be focused on 2027 and beyond, not just how do we fix this all in one season, because that's probably not happening. You watch that game, and do you think there's one off season's worth of moves that gets the Raiders to the level of the Chargers yesterday? Probably not. One last thing on this game. Max Crosby took a cheap shot at Justin Herbert. It was a soft shove, but it was a 2-handed shove after the play. Herbert comes and screams, and he's right next to Crosby's. Crosby shoves him. Whatever. It wasn't super dirty, but it was enough to draw a flag. It's one of the things that, depending on your viewpoint, if he's on your team or not on your team, it's the most annoying or fun thing about Max Crosby, because he's normally really good at that stuff, without crossing a line. And we actually saw a good example in this game. There were 2 times in the first half where the Chargers snapped it, but the play got killed for a penalty or a timeout, whatever it was. But Herbert's got the ball, but everybody stopped. And Crosby just still keeps coming and then just goes and takes the ball out of Herbert's hands. Just steals it from him. Just completely annoying, just a pest. And right, if you're playing against him, you're probably like, go away. Like, you're just bleep off. And I think that's the part of Crosby that, one, probably helps make him good, but also makes it fun to watch him. But he's really good at doing that stuff without actually crossing a line and getting penalties. And then he did get one yesterday. So as long as he doesn't take those 15-yard penalties, it's generally a good thing for a defender to be that annoying. But I just found that interesting that we saw Max Crosby, like the annoying ass that's out here, but then he actually got called for a 15-yard penalty for something different a little bit later. Normally, he's pretty good at avoiding that. All right. That's the show. I wanted to do the first show and then actually talk about what I'm going for here. That's the show. If you didn't pick up on it, it's going to be hyper local, right? We're going to be doing Raiders and Golden Knights, UNLV, Aces. Like, we're going to be doing hyper local stuff. We'll mix in some stuff that's not super local. Like, I find it funny Michigan players are defending the M. We'll mix stuff in like that, but not a lot. It's going to be extremely local. If you listen to me at ESPN Las Vegas, thank you. But I started out there doing a solo show, well, with Jared yelling in the background and pressing buttons and annoying all of you. But I did a show there called Technically Correct, and it was a full local show. That was the whole point, was to do a local show. And I'm going to do that again. And there's a few reasons why. First off, Technically Correct is the best thing I've done in my career. Like, anything. I started doing a bunch of stuff when I was in college at Ole Miss. It's better than that, although I did get booed at my college graduation one time. That's a fun story. But it's better than anything I did there. Better than anything since before I moved to ESPN Las Vegas, and better than since Technically Correct was gone. It got taken from me, in part because the Raiders moved to Vegas. But this is what I want to do. I put it in my teaser episode as well. I think there's a question that I'm trying to answer with me being the answer. Who is like the voice in Las Vegas sports? Is there anyone that if something happens in Vegas sports, like you want to know what they think about it, you want to know what they have to say about it? Does that voice exist? Because I don't think it does. I think there are people that cover individual teams here well, but don't cover all of it. And I'm trying to be that. A lot of you are going to hate me. A lot of you already hate me. It's great. But I want to be that. And so every day, every morning, like I want to be here. It's local sports talks. I think that's a hole in the market that doesn't exist. And so that's what I'm trying to be. And I'll be honest with you. It's pathetic. The radio market here is pathetic. We've got an NFL team, an NHL team, Division I college football, Division I college basketball, WNBA. We've got like the best WNBA team in the league. Major League Baseball's coming. And what are the local shows? Like whether it's radio or whether it's, off terrestrial and you're doing just podcast. What are the local sports talk shows? Like, it's not good here. There's only one radio cluster in Vegas with sports. It's the one I got fired from. And to put it bluntly, basically all of those stations have shows where the people on there are employees or basically employees of the teams that they talk about. Sports radio or podcast medium is not supposed to be fluffy. It's not supposed to be, hey, let's tell everyone how great the team is at every opportunity. That's not what this medium is. It's not how it exists in the world of sports. It's the opposite of what this medium is. But that's all you kind of get here. And some people like that. Keep listening to it. That's fine. Perfectly fine. But here, I'm going to have the freedom to say something like, Pete Carroll should be fired. That freedom doesn't exist other places. You might get suspended for that. But not here. By the way, I've been suspended 3 times in my career. I'm actually kind of proud of that. Mainly because every time I got suspended, it was for something that I still 100% agree with what I said. Like, it was just people having thin skin, being mad that I criticized them. Like, it basically is what it comes down to. So I do like that. I've been suspended 3 times. But I know a few of you have already asked me some questions, but you can ask me some questions about what has happened at my previous job. I might answer some of them on here. I don't know exactly how much interest there is. I know there's a little bit, but I can answer some of those on here in future episodes. So you can ask me technically correct Vegas@gmail.com if you want to email me, or on Twitter at Bischoff_Tyler, or Instagram, or TikTok, or YouTube. I'll be all of those places. The show is going to be, I don't know where you're listening or watching, but we're going to be on YouTube. So if you want to watch it, if you like watching podcasts, we'll have that every morning. Obviously, the audio version will be on Spotify, Apple, a lot of other places. If you've got a podcast location that you normally listen to that I'm not on, let me know, and hopefully I'll figure that out. But we're going to be a bunch of places. If you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, I'll have content there as well, and obviously on Twitter. Last thing, I will answer one question because I know it's boring, actually. I got fired from Lotus for budget reasons. It's very anticlimactic given some of the previous incidents that happened there. But yes, it was budget cuts. It's kind of boring. It's not fun. It's not a fun story, but that's ultimately what it was. I've got my paperwork right here for getting fired for budget reasons. It's no fun. So yeah, but if you got questions, let me know. I might answer them, might not answer them. But this is going to be the show. This is what we're going to do every day. Going to give you a show Monday through Friday. Don't come yelling at me on Christmas. You're not getting a show on Christmas. But we're going to do a show most days, Monday through Friday, and give you local sports. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully I'm good at it. I got a lot of confidence in myself. I think I'm going to be good at it. And if you want to sponsor it, if you're like, you're damn right, you're good at it, Tyler, technically correct Vegas@gmail.com. I'm telling you, I'm not greedy. It's going to be cheaper than you think. I'm going to be cheap. I'm going to be like Lane Kiffin. I'm not a housewife. I'm a hoe for your money. So if you want to sponsor it, let me know. Technically correct Vegas@gmail.com or Twitter, wherever the hell else you want to find me. We'll make it work. We'll make something work. Thank you guys so much for listening, for watching the first episode of Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff.